All right, let's get this show back on the road. Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, or welcome if this is your first time. I am here after a bit of a hiatus that I'm not going to apologize for because many of you have said, don't apologize. If you can't get some videos out, it's fine. This time it was not necessarily because I was sick, although I haven't been feeling tip-top lately. I think it is mostly because we had 3 weeks of sheer chaos with the puppy that we had as a foster. She went to a different place yesterday with a different family, and she's going to transition from there to her transport, which is not nearby here. And then she will go wherever she's going, unless the lady that we transferred her to last night decides to keep her, which is, if it's possible, a very likely possibility. We have discovered, and I guess we always knew, but we just really felt like this little baby needed some help, that puppies just are not for us at this point. And not just for us, they're really not easy for our pets as well. The cat takes or leaves the puppies, he's fine. But the older dogs get really fatigued, as we did as well. She was a lot. She was probably 5 weeks old when we got her, and we had her for 3 weeks, which was the expectation. And yeah, so she is in a new place. We hope she's doing well. We'll stay in touch with her foster mom, Emily. But for now, life will get back to a little bit of normal, and it is quiet here. Now, it was quiet some days for me. Lisa took her to work with her, and so I had a day, but it was really hard for me to work and to focus and concentrate. My anxiety was super high because I was constantly worried about her, to be quite honest. And so that's really essentially, I think, what was making me not feel well, was just that it was so much. I'm not suggesting that fostering little puppies is a bad thing. I'm just saying it is no longer a good thing for us, at least. We're happy for her. We're happy we had her. We had lovely fun time. I have great photos of her, but yeah, she's with a new foster mommy and daddy and grandpa, who's going to take care of her during the day. So they're very excited. Grandpa is thrilled to have her. So we're happy that that worked out. Today, I'm also going to say that a combination of things this month, but particularly in the last 3 weeks that we had her, have created some challenges for me. One is that I just didn't get to read as much as I wanted to. It was really hard to focus and concentrate while she was yipping and barking and, chewing and biting and needing different things in and outside a lot. But also that just sort of chaos combined with some other things that I had going on at work was just really a lot for me. And so I did not read as much as I had hoped I would this month. I did not read as many of my old school April titles as I was hoping to. I DNF'd the book of the month club I was reading, so now I've had to start a different one. That's a huge challenge for me because it's almost the end of the month. I have a book I need to read for book club. But the stress and anxiety of some of the things that were happening in my life this month, I think really created me to overbuy. And so this digital haul is filled with books that I purchased, not for a lot, but there were a lot of sales. There was a sale at Libro.fm. There was a sale at Amazon on the Kindle titles. And so I just lost my mind a little bit, and I'm feeling a little so and so about that. Feel good about it on one hand because they're titles that I really wanted. On the other hand, I really feel like I need to take a break. And I mentioned this before when I was doing the physical haul, but I think that there was definitely something that was happening inside of me that was causing me some stress and anxiety, and more than that one something for sure, that was then resulting in overbuying. I am mindful of this, and I am also mindful of the fact that I might need to see somebody to support me. Maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's my coach, I don't know, but I'm definitely noticing that my anxiety level is much higher than it probably should be. So I'm going to address that in the next month while I also address the backlist titles and those kinds of things. Now, some of the books that I got on Kindle have been on my backlist for a while. One of them is on Kindle Unlimited, and I own the physical copy, but because it was on Kindle Unlimited, I went ahead and grabbed it too, for now anyway. A lot of these titles are not new to me, but some of them are. Some of them are continuations in a series. Some of them are audiobooks that I got because I want to listen rather than read the physical copies, those kinds of things. You all get it. So I won't even tell you anymore, except here's what I hauled, and just, get yourself a cup of coffee. So let's start with the Libro.fm sale. And there was one free book that I got in this process as well. So that was kind of a delightful thing. Every year they give you the opportunity to get a free book, and they give you a number of them to choose from. So I got a book that way too. So the first one, though, that I acquired is the Strawberry Patch Pancake House by Lori Gilmore. This is book 4 in the Dream Harbor series. I started to say Dark Harbor, but not Dark Harbor, Dream Harbor series. They're all about a different character. And this time the main character is a man, and he's a chef. His name is Archer, I think. And he has a young daughter whose name is Olive. It's Archer and Olive, which is the company that makes journals that I have purchased over time. So it just occurred to me, oh my gosh, it's Archer and Olive. Okay, so Archer and Olive are living in Dream Harbor, and Archer is a chef, and he's a single parent, and Olive is a younger child, and he's realizing that he needs some help, with the work that he's doing and with raising Olive. And so he hires a nanny in the community who has no job at the moment. Her name is Iris, and she agrees to take care of Olive for him while he's working. And you all know what's going to happen. None of this is unpredictable, but I'm going to give book number 4 a try. These are, I've said before, but if you're new to my channel, these are very steamy. There's a lot of sex on the page. At least the first 3 have been extremely steamy. And they're not particularly deep. They're just easy reads. They're just kind of palate cleansers, if you will. And I've kind of gotten adjusted and used to these people in this little community. And I just want to keep finding out what happens and see how she keeps doing this. I will say that each one does usually connect you to the community, and so some of the people that you've already met before, which is nice. You kind of see a little bit of their trajectory after you've heard their story. So I think for now, anyway, I'm going to keep up with these. So again, that's on audio this time. So I'm looking forward to that and hoping that one works out really well for me. The next one I purchased on Libro.fm, and these were on sale, by the way. I didn't spend full price for any of these. They were $3.50 essentially. They were super cheap this month. I had a big sale, multiple weeks of sales. The next one is The Bat by Yo Nesbo. This is a backlist for real. And I got it on audio. I do have a physical paperback copy that I got from a used bookstore, but this was a concept video that was based on a trip that a trip that my cousins made to come and visit me. And we talked about books and what they were reading. And so I did a concept about reading like my cousins. And I read like my cousin Rita, and I read like her daughter Sadie. And I never read like my cousin Ken, who was Rita's husband. And he's actually my blood cousin. So I have not done this for a long time. So I thought that perhaps The Bat would be easily digested for me if I got it on audio. Also, though, knowing that lately audio doesn't always track for me. So I'm hopeful that this will work, or that will turn around. I'm really struggling with tracking and reading these days, but this one is the first in the Harry Hole series. I think it's Harry Hole. It could be Harry Hole, but I don't think so. It's just an interesting name, but Harry is from the Oslo Crime Squad, but he ends up going to Sydney, Australia, because a Norwegian woman from his area, she's a celebrity, was murdered. And so he ends up going to Australia to be able to see if he can support the investigation. And I don't think that they're really keen. I'm not certain, but I don't think they're really keen on him showing up to help. But he's not going to stop until he figures out what happened to this woman. The next one is a gift that Libro.fm gives out to its customers every year, and this one you get to choose from a number of them, and I chose An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good, which is by Helene Thurston. I have never heard of this book or this author, but it just drew me in from the moment I read the synopsis. So this young woman, Maud, was given her parents' home or her father's home as a younger person, and she's lived in this home forever. She's traveled the world. She's enjoyed this I think it's an apartment. She's just really been very kind of living this normal life that wouldn't necessarily stand out to anyone until a local celebrity tries to take away her apartment. Now, she's in her 80s or 90s at this point, hence the elderly lady title. But she really has to fight against this woman, and she's really at odds with some neighbors, and she's mad about an old flame who's getting married, and she's not married. And the next thing you know, a body is discovered in her apartment. We need to figure out what happened to Maud, or what happened as a result of Maud making some waves in the local area. Did somebody set her up, I'm hoping, for this particular murder? I mean, it's possible that Maud murdered the person based on the title, but I doubt it. I think she's probably going to solve the murder. We shall see. I'd never heard of this author, like I said, and this one just sounded super cute. And I love that cover. It looks just like an older lady in her little house, right? It's just perfect. And So I Roar by Abi Dare has been on my list for a while, and I haven't gotten to it. And it was also on sale on Libro.fm for $3.49. I will say that I am also able to, on Libro.fm, listen to the narrator for just a little blurb. They give you that option, and I did for all of these because the narrator's voice really does impact my ability sometimes to listen to a novel. So I will say that this one was my favorite. It's a beautiful, beautiful voice. But Tia is with her mom, and her mom is on her deathbed, and there's some other relatives there too. And she accidentally hears a secret about her mom that she never knew. She is really curious about this and decides she's going to try and figure out what happened, because this is like life altering for her. But meanwhile, while she's trying to discover what happened, she meets a young girl whose name is Aduni. She's 14 years old. She's run away and she has nowhere to live. And so she takes her into her home and tries to support her and get her into school, which Aduni is really enjoying. And Tia is also simultaneously trying to find out what occurs, as we said earlier. But she now has to make a choice about Aduni, which I'm not sure if that choice is whether to adopt her. It doesn't really say, but also come to terms with what she discovers about her mom. Sounds really good to me. I love a family drama. I love found family. And a lot of my BookTube friends, Krista in particular from Books and Jams, and I think somebody else, I can't remember now, is a big fan. There is another book by this author that I have wanted to read for a while and haven't gotten to. That's The Girl with the Louding Voice. And so hopefully when I get to this one, maybe more quickly, I will be able to then get to that one too, because I've really wanted to read that for a while. And then the last audiobook that I acquired is The Address by Fiona Davis. This one has been one of hers that I've wanted to read for a while. Fiona Davis is not always an author that I absolutely embrace with love. Some of them are better than others for me, but this one is about the Dakota, which is an apartment building in New York. It's a famous, famous apartment building. It's the apartment building where John Lennon lived and was killed near there. I have been by the Dakota, and it's just always fascinated me. So this book, The Address, was one that I have had on my backlist again for a while. I just didn't own it. So when I say I'm reading my backlist, I'm not necessarily not counting the books that I read right now. I'm counting the books that I've wanted to read for a long time and just acquired a way to listen to them or read them, just so we're clear. I just want to be upfront about that, because I think some people's definition of reading the backlist is different than mine. But let's get back to this book. So this is about, and let me just say, Fiona Davis, if you haven't read her books, she's very good at writing historical fiction, but she also usually adds a little bit of romance, a little bit of mystery thriller in there. There's just a lot going on in her books, which it's not distracting by any stretch. In fact, I actually love it. It's sort of like a 3-for-1 experience, because you get you get three sort of genres in each book, right? So that for me really works. So I don't have names for the people necessarily in this book, but I do have sort of a synopsis of what the description indicated that you can expect when you listen to it or read it. So this is love stories, an illegitimate child, drug abuse, a found murder weapon, and a stay in an asylum. And then, if that's not enough, there's a surprise appearance by a real life character whose name is Nellie Bly. If you don't know who Nellie Bly is, I encourage you to take a look because Nellie Bly is quite something. But I can't imagine anything better than this sort of combination of quirky things all together. And I have always been a bit of a person who's curious and likes to read and learn about Nellie Bly. So I think it'll be great. Again, it's a great setting. I love books that are set in New York. And I've really, like I said, all of hers have been decent. None of them been DNFs for me. Some of them just have stood out more than others. All right, let's get to digital, which means Kindle. Yes. And again, these were all on sale. Most of them were 99 cents to $1.99. I may have paid $2.99 for one. I had a number of credits that I was able to use, so I got several of them free. I did get an Amazon First Reads for my subscription that I have to Prime. And a couple of them were just, I don't even know that they had any price attached to them. And then two of them are Kindle Unlimited borrows. So here we go. Hello Transcriber by Hannah Morrissey, which is the Black Harbor series, book number 1. The reason this came up was because I happened to notice the Black Harbor series, book number 3 or 4, and I thought, oh, that sounds really good. And then I thought, that name sounds familiar, and there's a book on my backlist by this woman, I think, but I never have it handy, and it is indeed Hello Transcriber. So I ended up purchasing it. Hazel Greenlee lives in Wisconsin, and she's listening every night to these detectives who are talking about some of the things that are happening in their cases. So I'm not sure if she's listening legally, if that's her job, although I'm assuming because it says Hello Transcriber, but she's spending some time listening to some pretty secretive stuff. She also, though, believes that if she were to write a novel, that she would be able to rise up out of the current kind of place that she's in and the work that she's doing, which is really what she aspires to do. And then her neighbor confesses to hiding a victim of a murder in their dumpster. He says that the victim overdosed. And so, did the victim overdose? So I'm assuming that Hazel then ends up having to solve this crime. But it sounds really good to me, and it has for years been on my backlist, and it sounded good to me then, so hopefully it really is good. And she's got a number of books in that series, so I think she must be doing something right. A really weird one, Shark Heart, Emily Haybeck. This has been on my backlist since I first heard of it. I'm not sure if I put this forward. I've done so many anticipated read lists now over the years, and I have a list of them in a book, but I don't have it handy. I don't know if I talked about this when it first came out or not, but I've always thought this would be a perfect one for my youngest daughter because she's obsessed with sharks. But this one is about a newly married couple. They have only been married a year or less, and they're, just getting to know each other in that married state when her husband is diagnosed with this rare disease that will eventually allow him to continue his consciousness and his memories and his, intellect, but his physical body gradually turns into a shark. And so they have to learn how to adjust to the fact that he's now a shark and make peace with the things that he can't do as a shark that he could have done as a human. It's very speculative, but I hear everybody talking about this book and they like it so much, which is why I didn't get it right away because I thought this could just be a disaster, right? I don't think so. I don't think it's a disaster at all, so I'm going to take a look at it. Little Beach Street Bakery by Jenny Colgan. I have read a number of Jenny Colgan's series novels, mostly the ones that are set around Christmas, but this one has been a book that I wanted to look at. This is book 1 in the Little Beach Street Bakery series. And so I thought I would start here again because it was on sale. So this one is about Polly Waterford, who is coming out of a toxic relationship and struggling with what to do next. And so she decides to move to Cornwall, and she finds herself living in this abandoned shop, which she then turns into a bakery because baking is her favorite hobby, and she makes bread. She's going to meet some other people in this new community. She's going to try to make a go of this business, and I'm sure lots of relationships will be formed. And these are just, they're pretty cozy. I wouldn't say they're, I guess they're cozy, but they're not, how do I put this? They're not like cozy funny necessarily. You know how some cozies people do crazy things and they have crazy neighbors, and just, and you laugh a lot, and they're delightful and entertaining in that way. But in this case, I think they're usually entertaining in the sense of they have a good plot. They're pretty, predictable, but they're also unique. So and that makes them sound like they're not that great, but I really do love Jenny Colgan. She's a great author, and I can read these pretty much anytime. And they're great palate cleansers too, because nothing really dramatic happens. I've read a number of them. In fact, I think I read a Christmas one not long ago. So the tagline in this one that I wrote down because I wanted to share it with you because I thought it was just beautiful says, "Sometimes bread really is life, and Polly is about to reclaim hers." So to me, that's sort of a coming into herself story, recovering from whatever baggage she's been carrying around. Sounds like right up my street. Natchez Burning by Greg Iles, who is a Mississippi author, favorite of mine, a great guy. Asked me if I've read all of the books that I have of his. The answer is no, but this is hopefully the way for me to get to book 4 of the Pen Cage series, because I have a lot of those, and I am stuck on book 3. I need to get to that next, but book 4 was on sale for, again, like $1.99. I thought I would just add it because I actually have them in hardback, but I prefer to read them on ebook because they are just big. They should be one of my big book reads for this year for sure, but we'll see. I'm not going to say a lot about this. I didn't even look at the synopsis for this because I haven't gotten through book 3. I don't want to look for book 4 and see what it's going to be about, but Natchez Burning doesn't sound good, does it? Now I have some nonfiction titles, and these were probably not some titles that you were expecting today, but what happened was I went into this sale and there were these 2, and they were both similar and different. Also, though, they were appealing to me because there's one that's even more appealing to me for a reason I have said before, but they're appealing to me now because of what's currently happening in our country in terms of the new president and what's been happening since he was elected. But what I wanted to do was to discover more about some other presidents, because I've done that with past presidents before. So the first one I got, called The Accidental President, Harry S. Truman and the 4 Months That Changed the World by A.J. Baime or Baime, B-A-I-M-E. Never heard of this author, but of course I've heard of Harry S. Truman. So it's a pulse-pounding story is what it says of Harry Truman's first 4 months in office. And obviously this was a tricky thing because he came from a farm and he was just not really this kind of political figure in particular that people were expecting to be president. But FDR has died. Germany is invading. Japan, Stalin, the atomic bomb, the fate of the entire world is at hand and hanging in the balance. And he has to do a number of things. And I wrote those down in a little note so I wouldn't forget what they are. Finding a way to create the United Nations, the Potsdam Conference, the Manhattan Project, the Nazi surrender, and the liberation of concentration camps, the decision to drop the bomb and end World War II. Can you imagine what it's like for anyone, but in particular, a president who's been shuffled into this job unexpectedly to take on all these things? What he does impacted everything, and I just really want to know more about it and more about him during that process. And then the next one is Destiny and Power, The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush by John Meacham. 2 things here. I've mentioned before, I did work under the Bush administration, didn't work directly for him, mind you, but did work under his administration for part of my time working for the government. Had a very good feeling feeling about him and felt like we were all being treated very well. John Meacham is also a favorite author of mine. Have I read all of his books? Absolutely not. Are they dense and difficult to read? Sometimes yes, but I thought perhaps Kindle would be a little bit easier and maybe I could become a completist of a John Meacham this year. We shall see. But nevertheless, this one is called A Brilliant Biography. Also, John Meacham won a Pulitzer Prize, so that's important for you to know. So he's definitely no slouch. But this chronicles the life of George Herbert Walker Bush, and it talks about him through the eyes and lenses of his personal diaries as well as his wife Barbara's diaries. So that was really surprising to me because probably they're in the archives, so it's not like he wouldn't have had access to them, but it really does give a different lens, I think, to the life of George Herbert Walker Bush and to what happened in his administration as well and how that impacted his family. He went through a bit of a tumultuous time as well. So he went through the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Gulf War was a part of his administration and the ending of it, ending communism in certain places, and just really a lot of different things happened. And there are some people who say that he's kind of the last of his kind, which I suppose everybody's definition of his kind is different, but I will say that he was much more of a person-centered president than a political party-centered president in my eyes. And I think that that's sort of backed up by some of the choices that he made and the friendships that he developed and some of the decisions that he made to work with others. So I can't wait to get to this one. I know it's going to be tough, but because those books can sometimes be super dense, but I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Then there's a little turn to the mystery detective space again. So I ended up picking up book 2 in the Jackson Brodie series written by Kate Atkinson, and this book is called One Good Turn. I have a number of Kate Atkinson, Jackson Brodie series on my shelves. I'm feeling a certain way about all of this, as you can tell, but it was on sale, and I do kind of want to read that whole series at some point. It's been sort of calling me lately to read one of these, and so if I read book 1 and I have book 3 and 4, I kind of want to have book 2. But most of them I got from little free libraries or at a really cheap discount somewhere, so used bookstores. I haven't spent a lot of money on these, but nevertheless, Jackson Brodie is a detective, and in this particular book, a crowd is gathered outside of a theater and they witness an extreme road rage incident where there's almost a death. And so Jackson Brodie is one of the bystanders of this particular event. So then he discovers what was kind of behind all this and what was happening. So it says, unscrupulous real estate tycoon, a washed-up comedian, a successful crime novelist, a mysterious Russian woman, and a female police detective, all holding a secret. That just kind of hooked me. So that's probably why I grabbed it. My prime read that I chose from the list of prime reads that they allow you to choose as a subscriber was Hannah Beckerman's book, The Three Mothers, or Three Mothers. I don't think there's a "the" in it. This one is really different in some ways too, but you'll see how it's up my street. So I'm going to read you a little bit of this because there's so much here. 17-year-old Isla Richardson, or Isla, I should say Isla, I don't know, but my friend's baby's name is Isla, so let's go with that, is killed in a hit-and-run incident. A community's lives are thrown into disarray. So Isla's mom is Abby. She's lost her husband already, and now she's trying to find out more about what happened to Isla. So Isla was, did I say this, 17, so she's not a baby. Then she has a best friend, Nicole. But Isla's death sets some things in place for Nicole that are really challenging as well. And then she has Jenna, who's noticing that Isla's death is impacting her life because her son had some secrets in the past that they were carrying. And she's afraid now, I guess, that they're going to come out. And she's trying just really hard to protect her son. What this says is, this is the part I'm going to read to you. A tragedy unites them, but it could also tear their families apart. Tackling friendship, family, social prejudice, and the pressures facing young women, Three Mothers shows us Do we really know our children? And how far would any of us go to protect those children that we love? It says it's ideal for fans of Louise Candlish, which I've never read, Lisa Jewell, I have, and Leanne Moriarty. It's a tense, page-turning domestic suspense story with a final twist that will make you gasp. Now you know why I grabbed it, because, yeah, I'm ready to gasp. The next one I grabbed on Kindle Unlimited. I have it physically on my shelves. This is I Need You to Read This by Jessa Maxwell. I have been a fan of The Golden Spoon. I've read it twice, actually, and this one seems like a good one. It's really short. It's really small. So Alex Marks moves to New York for a fresh start. She had a copywriting job, but her friend was murdered, and this really kind of created a difficulty for her because her friend was a staff writer for this advice column called Dear Constance. She applies to be the replacement for the Dear Constance writer and doesn't expect to be chosen, but she is chosen. So that's a curiosity for her at that point, apparently. And also, the murderer of her friend has never been found. So she starts her own little investigation, and she probably discovers what occurs. It sounds pretty predictable, but also pretty good. It's kind of a unique plot, and I thought it might be time for me to get to this. And I really love this cover because it has the little, the words in little keys, right? So that's just really great. And then the last one I just acquired yesterday when I finally said, this is it. I'm cutting it off. Do the video. Save us. This is Good Night, Beautiful by Amy Malloy. It was interesting because when I went to look it up on Goodreads, I put in Hello, Beautiful, which is by Ann Napolitano. Totally different book. So this is Good Night, Beautiful. Amy Malloy has written a number of books, and I have a couple of them on my shelves. I think I've read one and have not read the other. But this one was described to me by Tina at Tina Books, TBR, etc., I think is the name of her channel. She's also the host of Book Talks, or she's a host of a podcast. I'll put it in here because I can't remember. I think it's Book Talk. Tina, and it's gone. Anyway, Good Night, Beautiful is the story of Sam and Annie, who are newlyweds, and they're leaving New York and starting all over again in a new sleepy hometown where Sam was raised in upstate New York. So they're still staying in the state of New York. They're leaving New York City. Annie spends a lot of time by herself because Sam is a therapist, and he works really, really hard, and he works with mostly women, and he works long, long hours. But he works in their home. And so, because of a vent situation in their home, his sessions can be heard from the room upstairs where he is giving therapy sessions. So there's lots of information here about Sam's clients. I can just tell you that I am cringing about this. Like, I have to take very, very good care when I coach my clients about who's in the house, which typically there isn't anyone in the house that's human anyway. There's lots of dogs and a cat, but I have to be very careful. I can't open my windows, you know what I mean? Like, I have to really be careful. And so this guy apparently doesn't know that this is happening. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But nevertheless, somehow a French woman shows up, and the synopsis of this was a little misleading, so I'm not sure. But a French woman shows up, and Sam apparently leaves with her, and I don't know why. So it seems like not to have anything to do with the listening of the sessions, but I don't know if she is listening to the sessions. It seems like they wouldn't say it if she wasn't. So I'm very confused about this book. However, Tina said this one was really, really good, and she liked another one by Amy Malloy as well. So I decided to go ahead and grab it because, again, it was on sale. No, it was Kindle Unlimited, which she mentioned. She did a whole video about what was currently on Kindle Unlimited. So that was actually very nice. So that's how I got this one. I have some library books also. I'm not going to show this to you today though, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try a chapter of them in a separate video and then decide which one of them that I'm going to keep and read. I'm telling you, Getting books has been my sort of therapy lately, but it's not good therapy. It's hoarding therapy. And I'm aware of it and I'm wanting to do something different about it. But right now, this is where I find myself. So I'm just going to be completely honest with you. If any of you have had this similar situation, do let me know, because we do what we need to do to make ourselves feel well and whole and happy. And sometimes those things are harmless, which acquiring books really are. And I didn't, like I said, spend a ton of money on them. But is it good for me? Is it overwhelming? Yes, it's overwhelming. So I'm really struggling with this whole thing. I have to be honest with you. I'm always honest with you about my mental health. Let me know if you've read any of these, which ones you really enjoyed, which ones are on your list to read, which ones you know you would never read because they just don't resonate with you. Let me know whatever you want me to know in the comments below. And if you don't want to leave a comment today just because you don't have anything to say, that's absolutely fine too. And based on what we've talked about today, what would I like you to leave as an emoji? How about you put a loaf of bread for the maybe happiest book on this list? The Little Beach Street Bakery. If you don't have anything to say, go ahead and leave a loaf of bread emoji. That sounds really good to me. I can't wait to hear from you in the comments below. And as always, happy reading. Bye.